Welcome to Bamfordrose and another question of the week. This week's question of the week is about entry-level Astons. So this is getting into the seat of an 05 V8 Vantage or an 04 DB9. Before we get into that question of the week, it really helps us if you can click that subscribe button, click us a like and comment on your ownership experiences of getting into entry-level Astons. Over the last year, the market has really hardened and prices have increased on the entry-level cars. An 05, 06 4.3 V8 Vantage with probably something like 50 or 60,000 miles on the clock seems to be trading today for an entry-level price of about 29 or 30,000 pounds. That's up from a year and a half ago from about 19 to 22,000 pounds. At the same time, the 04 DB9 entry point was late teens, early 20s, and even that has risen now to mid to late 20s. Now, a couple of years ago, I know firsthand a few customers that bought at the late teens. Specifically, there was a couple of customers who bought 05 V8 Vantage at about 18, 19 grand, knowing that they were going to put about 10k into the car on repairs and evolution. And because the paint and interior was good on those cars, that all up price was okay. Even if there were a couple of unexpected repair items needed, and they were big ticket, big value items, then if the purchase price was late teens, then this was palatable, and the car that you ended up with, delivered a nice ownership experience. You got an all-up price of probably 30, but you've got a well-maintained car, good paint, good interior, feels a nice place to sit, and polishing it on a Sunday because the paintwork was in decent condition, then that was a pleasurable and rewarding too. But now, if the market is hardened a bit and the entry level is 29 or 30, they're still going to need the same 10k spending on them, especially if they've been uncared for examples. Meaning that by the time you get to the end journey of repairs and evolution, what that all up cost might be, is that really a good outcome? Is the ownership experience as good as what it was when the cars were a bit cheaper? If you want to know the sorts of things that these cars can need when they've had the miles racked on, years have gone by and there's been a bit of maintenance neglect, then go and check out question of the week 98. Whether it's on 4.3 V8 or it's on entry level DB9, I've seen a few owners caught out in exactly this cycle. That DB9 at mid-20s or the V8 Vantage at late 20s and 30k starting price for the V8 can quite easily need clutch, brakes, tyres. Every man and his dog selling a car always proclaims how proud they are about it's just been fully serviced. Well, we know that's not true. It might have had an oil and filter, a dubious grade of oil at that, but that's far from a service. So by the time you add the cost of the service onto the clutch, brake and tyres, you're easily knocking on the door of 8 to 10 grand. That puts that 29, 30k V8 Vantage up to 40 grand. And the threshold to get into a 4.7 seems to be sitting currently at about low to mid 40s. Now, the ownership experience of that car is arguably going to be a bit better. The 4.7 motor is going to have a bit more go, even in standard form. It's on Bilstein dampers, so it's going to handle a bit better. And the younger car stands a chance of having better interior and paint condition. So it's not just the man maths that are important, it is the whole ownership experience. Not just will the 4.7 drive better than the 4.3, it's how you feel sat in the driver's seat. The experience of the better interior, the better paint condition, and probably less trips to a workshop. That entry-level V8 at 29k is probably going to need a few trips to the workshop to sort out niggling faults that just reoccur until the point that the car is on the straight and narrow and is fault-free. Now, depending on when you performed that maintenance after purchase, means that sooner or later you will arrive at that position of having spent the same all-up spend, so that's the purchase price, evolution and repairs, as what it would have taken to get into the seat of that 4.7. And if it were my money, I would have just felt a heck of a lot better. The ownership experience would have been better if I was in the seat of that 4.7 over the 4.3. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not bashing the 4.3 here. It's an absolutely fantastic car. But what we're not happy with is what that all-up price will inevitably calculate to. And the fact that you'd have probably been better off getting into the seat of that car at that same all-up price to start with. There's two things wrong here in my opinion. One of them is the purchase price of that entry level V8 Vantage and the all-up cost to get it on the straight and narrow. That gets too close to a 4.7. But not just that, it often goes beyond what you could have spent to get into the best 4.3 seat out there. 30k for entry, 12.5k more would get you into a super low mileage, well maintained, excellent example. The entry level car plus a clutch plus brakes plus tyres plus a service takes that entry level car beyond that top spec 4.3 car. Now it's a ladder, and a 4.7 prices are going to be governed by Vantage S, and Vantage S is going to be governed by the V8 models above it, which is going to be governed by a V12 Vantage. Obviously it's nudged up through demand, but just looking through the classifieds, there are plenty of entry level examples out there to buy. In every sector, prices are on the up. So is this the case of sellers wanting a bit of the good times? Because with lots of cars for sale in the classifieds, it doesn't look like there's an army of buyers fighting each other to buy up those examples. So with it being market forces which affects these prices, then it should be the buyers voting with their feet to alter, in my opinion, the incorrect price of these entry level cars. With high mileage, that's going to be above 60. Let's just say it's sparse service history. Maintenance and repairs is going to be 10k. Whatever the purchase price is, and with that 10k added, there needs to be more separation than what there currently is between that figure and what a very best 4.3 that you could buy, or the start of a 4.7. Perhaps it's because the cars look so timeless that we forget that they are 16, 17 years old now in the case of the 04 DB9. And just like 5 or 8 years ago, we didn't have an avalanche of trackers to turn off. Now that these cars are nudging up the years, then stuff like rear subframe restorations are creeping into the maintenance list. Those entry-level cars are absolutely fantastic buys. If you've never owned an Aston before and that's your first one, you're going to absolutely love that driving experience. But as the years tick on and the maintenance required inevitably increases, if the entry-level price is nudging up, then you really do need to pay attention to what your all-up spend could be. So give us your comments on entry-level Astons, and we'll see you on the next question of the week.